weight room went dead silent. Every barbell stopped mid-lift. Every treadmill slowed to a halt. Every inmate turned to watch what was about to happen. Ray, the tax man, Bellmont had his forearm pressed against the new guy's throat, pinning him against the concrete wall, cutting off his air. "You think you're special?" Ray's voice was a low growl. "You think the rules don't apply to you?" The new guy should have been terrified. Every other fish who'd been in this position had begged, cried, promised anything and everything. But this guy was smiling, not a nervous smile, not a crazy smile, a calm, patient smile, like a man who knew exactly what was coming next. "You got about 3 seconds to wipe that smile off your face," Ray said. "Or what?" 2 words, spoken so quietly they barely carried. Ray's eye twitched. In 8 years of running his operation, nobody had ever talked back. Nobody had ever questioned him. Nobody had ever smiled while he choked them. "Or I break every bone in your—" He never finished the sentence. The new guy moved. One moment Ray was in control. The next moment he was on the ground, his arm twisted behind his back at an angle that shouldn't be possible, a knee pressed into his spine. The new guy leaned down, his lips next to Ray's ear. "Listen carefully because I'm only going to say this once." His voice was calm, almost friendly. "I know who you are. I know what you do. I know every inmate you've extorted, every guard you've bribed, every dollar you've sent outside." Ray's blood went cold. "I'm not here to take over your operation. I'm not here to make trouble. I'm here to serve my time and go home." The pressure on his arm increased. Ray gasped in pain. "But if you ever touch me again, I will dismantle everything you've built, piece by piece, starting with your freedom." The new guy released him, stood up, brushed off his prison uniform like nothing had happened. "We understand each other." Ray couldn't speak, could barely breathe. The new guy walked away, calm, unhurried, like he'd just finished a casual conversation. The weight room remained frozen. The tax man had just been dethroned, and nobody, not even Ray himself, understood how. Before we dive into this story, if you're new to Behind Bar Tales, welcome. This is where we share the most intense and raw stories from behind prison walls. If you want to know who this new fish really was and how he brought down the most feared extortionist in Ridgemont Penitentiary, you need to stay until the end. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Ridgemont State Penitentiary was a medium security facility in upstate New York. Built in the 1970s, it held about 800 inmates at any given time. Not the worst prison in the state, not the best, just another concrete box where men waited for their lives to resume, and at the center of that box was Raymond Bellmont. Ray had arrived at Ridgemont in 2015, 32 years old, serving 10 years for fraud and racketeering. Before prison, he'd run a small empire of illegal gambling and loan sharking in Albany. He wasn't physically imposing. 5'10", average build, thinning hair he kept shaved close to his skull. But Ray had something more valuable than muscle. He had a system. Within his first year, Ray had identified every weakness in Ridgemont's ecosystem. The guards who were underpaid and corruptible, the inmates who had money coming in from outside, the blind spots in the camera coverage, the schedules of every shift change. He built his operation brick by brick. It started small. Protection fees from inmates who had money. Simple. Pay Ray 20% of your commissary deposits and nobody bothers you. Refuse and life gets very uncomfortable. Then it expanded. Gambling. Contraband phones. Substances. Anything that moved through Ridgemont, Ray took a cut. The guards looked the other way because Ray made it worth their while. The administration never caught on because Ray was smart enough to keep the violence minimal and the complaints non-existent. By 2023, Ray controlled an operation worth thousands of dollars every month. He had 6 enforcers who collected his taxes. He had guards on payroll. He had connections that reached beyond the walls. They called him the tax man, and everyone paid. My name is Victor Chen. I was 44 years old when I walked into Ridgemont, serving 3 years for white-collar crimes that I absolutely committed. Embezzlement, wire fraud, things I'm not proud of, Before my conviction, I'd spent 20 years working in federal law enforcement. The specifics don't matter. What matters is that I'd seen the inside of prisons before, just from the other side. Now I was seeing it from this side. My first day, I kept my head down, observed, learned the layout, identified the power structures. Old habits die hard. I noticed Ray immediately, not because he was obvious. He wasn't. That was what made him good. He blended in, stayed quiet, let his enforcers do the visible work. But I'd spent 2 decades studying men like Ray. I recognized the signs, the way other inmates deferred to him, the subtle nods from certain guards, the flow of goods through the facility. I knew exactly what he was, and I knew eventually he'd come for me. It took 3 days. One of his collectors approached me in the yard, a guy named Marcus, tall, muscular, intimidating if you didn't know better. "You're the new guy, Chen." "That's right. Ray wants to talk to you about how things work around here." "I know how things work." Marcus blinked. That wasn't the expected response. "What?" "I said I know how things work. I'm not interested in paying taxes. Tell Ray to find another customer." Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. "Man, you got no idea what you just did." He walked away, shaking his head. I knew exactly what I'd done. I just made myself a target. But I also knew something Ray didn't. I wasn't just another fish. Ray didn't come at me directly. That wasn't his style. First came the small things. My cell got tossed while I was at my work assignment. Nothing stolen, just chaos. Mattress flipped, papers scattered, a message. Then my food started tasting wrong. Not poisoned, just messed with. Salt dumped in my coffee. Something unpleasant mixed into my dinner. Then came the isolation. Inmates I'd been friendly with suddenly avoided me, wouldn't sit with me, wouldn't make eye contact. Classic pressure tactics, psychological warfare. Make the target feel alone and vulnerable until they break. I'd taught classes on these techniques at Quantico. After a week of this, Ray finally approached me himself. It was in the library. Quiet, private, just the two of us between the shelves. "You're making things hard for yourself," he said. Calm, reasonable. Like a businessman discussing terms. "Am I? You could make this easy. 20%, that's all. In return, you get protection, peace, a smooth ride until you go home. And if I keep declining," Ray smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Then things get a lot less peaceful." I studied him. This close, I could see the intelligence in his eyes, the calculation. He wasn't a thug. He was an operator. "Let me ask you something, Ray." He raised an eyebrow. "Do you know why I'm here? What I did before? White-collar stuff, fraud. Who cares? Before that, do you know what I did before?" Something flickered in his expression, uncertainty. "Should I? Maybe, maybe not." I leaned closer. "But you should know this. I'm not someone you want as an enemy. I'm offering you a chance to walk away. Take it." Ray laughed, genuine amusement. "You're threatening me? Old man, you have no idea who you're dealing with." "Neither do you." I walked away. The next morning, they came for me in the weight room. There were 3 of them. Marcus, the one who'd first approached me. A guy named Jerome with gang tattoos covering his neck. And a massive Samoan named Tui who had to weigh at least 300 pounds. They cornered me near the free weights. The room wasn't empty, but nobody would interfere. That was how Ray's system worked. "Last chance," Marcus said. "Ray's being generous. Pay up or—" "No," Marcus sighed. "Fine. We'll do this the hard way." Tui moved first. Big men always think size is enough. It isn't. I sidestepped, used his momentum against him. He crashed into the weight rack. The noise was tremendous. Jerome came next, faster, more experienced. I blocked his first punch, drove my palm into his solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Marcus hesitated. That hesitation cost him. 30 seconds later, all 3 were on the ground. Groaning, not seriously hurt. I'd been careful about that, but definitely not getting up soon. The room was silent, every inmate staring. I caught my breath, straightened my uniform. Then I saw Ray. He was standing in the doorway, watching, his expression unreadable. I walked toward him. The crowd parted. When I reached him, I stopped, close enough that only he could hear me. I tried to warn you. Who are you? Someone who knows everything about you. Your operation, your contacts, the guards on your payroll, the accounts where you send your money. His face went pale. That's impossible. Is it? I smiled. I've spent 3 days watching you, Ray. 3 days putting together the pieces. You're good, but you're not invisible. What do you want? What I said from the beginning. To be left alone. To do my time. To go home. I leaned closer. But if you can't accept that, I have another option. Everything I know goes to the warden, not a guard. The warden herself. The one person you haven't been able to buy. Ray's jaw clenched. You'd be marked as a snitch. You wouldn't survive a week. Maybe, but neither would your operation, and neither would you. Want to find out which of us has more to lose? Ray didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. For 3 days, nothing happened. No harassment, no pressure, no contact at all. The other inmates watched me with new eyes, some with fear, some with respect, most with confusion. Who was this old guy who'd taken down 3 enforcers and faced down the taxman? I kept my routine. Work, meals, exercise, reading. On the 4th day, Ray found me in the yard. He sat down next to me on the concrete bench. No enforcers, no backup, just him. I looked into you, he said, and your records are sealed, the real ones. Whatever I could find was surface-level stuff, generic white-collar criminal, nothing that explains you. I said nothing. But I talked to some people with connections, and they told me something interesting. He turned to look at me. They said you were a ghost, someone who doesn't officially exist, someone who did things for the government that nobody talks about. People say a lot of things. They also said you're the last person anyone should mess with. Smart people. Ray was quiet for a long moment. What do you actually want, Chen? The truth, not the speech. What do you want? I considered the question. I want to go home to my daughter. She's 16. I've missed too much of her life already. I don't want to miss any more because some petty extortionist decided to make me a project. That's it? That's it. I'm not here to take over. I'm not here to reform the system. I don't care about your operation. Do whatever you want to, everyone else. Just leave me out of it. Ray nodded slowly. And if I agree, you keep what you know to yourself? I have no reason to talk. Your operation doesn't affect me. The information is leverage, not ammunition. As long as I'm left alone, it stays where it is. Another long silence. Then Ray extended his hand. I looked at it. We're really doing this. I know when I'm beat. Doesn't happen often, but I recognize it when it does. I shook his hand, and just like that, the standoff was over. The rest of my sentence was uneventful. Ray kept his word. I was completely off limits. Anyone who even looked at me wrong got a visit from his enforcers. Ironic. The man who tried to extort me became my protector. We even developed a strange kind of respect. Not friendship. We were too different for that. But an understanding between professionals. Sometimes in the yard, he'd ask me questions about my past, about the things I'd done. I never answered directly, but I think he understood more than I said. One conversation stuck with me. Why did you let me walk away? He asked. You had everything you needed to destroy me. Why not use it? Because destruction wasn't my goal. That's not an answer. I thought about it. I've spent my whole life tearing things down. Operations, organizations, men who thought they were untouchable. I was good at it. Too good, maybe. I looked at the sky. But I'm tired of destroying things. I just want to build something now. A relationship with my daughter. A life after this. That's all. Ray was quiet. You're a strange man, Chen. So I've been told. I served 22 months, good behavior, early release. The day I walked out, Ray was waiting in the yard. He nodded at me through the fence. I nodded back. That was goodbye. My daughter was waiting outside. 18 now. A woman. So much of her childhood gone. She hugged me without a word. Held on for a long time. Let's go home, Dad. Home. The word meant something different now. I got in the car, looked back at Ridgemont one last time. Somewhere inside, Ray was still running his operation. Still collecting his taxes. Still being the tax man. I could have stopped him. Could have brought the whole thing down. But some battles aren't worth fighting. And some enemies become something else entirely. It's been 2 years since I left Ridgemont. I work as a consultant now. Security analysis. Helping organizations identify vulnerabilities before someone else does. Legal this time. My daughter's in college. We talk every day. We're rebuilding what I almost lost. Last month, I got a letter, no return address, postmarked from upstate New York. Inside was a single sentence. Got out early. Going straight. Thanks for the lesson. It was unsigned, but I knew who it was from. The tax man had finally retired. And somewhere, somehow, that felt like the only victory that mattered. And that's the story of the tax man and the fish who wasn't really a fish at all. Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one you least expect. The quiet one. The old one. The one who seems like an easy target. If this story made you think, if it kept you watching until the very end, then do me a favor. Subscribe to Behind Bar Tales right now. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you would have done in Victor's position. Would you have destroyed Ray's operation? Or would you have taken the deal? Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's facing their own bully. Someone who needs to remember that strength comes in many forms. Until next time, stay smart, stay aware, and never underestimate the quiet ones. This is Behind Bar Tales. See you in the next one.